Okay, so you know that feeling, right? When you finally crack a tough coding problem and it's like this little click in your head, this sense of, I built something that actually works.
Yeah, for a lot of us, that's like the essence of being a software engineer, creating stuff through code.
Definitely. It's like the foundation of our careers.
Yeah.
And, we take pride in turning ideas into real software that people can actually use.
Yeah, it's like a badge of honor almost.
Totally.
Yeah.
But lately, there's this feeling like things are changing, like the ground's shifting under our feet.
Yeah, I get that.
We are diving deep today, pulling insights mainly from Annie Vella's article. She talks about how AI coding assistants are getting really smart, like way smarter. And they're not just another tool in the toolbox.
Right, it feels different this time.
Yeah, and Annie Vella hits on this question of, are we still creators if AI is writing the code?
Exactly. And I think she nails the core issue, this potential shift from writing code ourselves to basically becoming the AI's supervisor.
And that makes you think about all those late nights spent debugging. Or, when you're really in the zone optimizing an algorithm or refactoring a huge mess of legacy code, that feeling of being so connected to the system, mastering it.
It's satisfying.
So satisfying. And Annie Vella asks, and this really got me thinking, how does AI change these fundamental parts of being a software engineer?
It makes you question what's at the heart of software engineering, that intellectual challenge, solving problems at the code level.
Absolutely. So if AI takes over a big chunk of that, what does our work even look like?
Yeah.
And will it feel as rewarding?
Big questions, for sure.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is the historical perspective that Annie Vella brings in. Like, for years, the industry pushed us to specialize more, having dedicated product owners, architects, and QA folks. And as software engineers, we kind of doubled down on becoming experts at coding itself.
We went deep, man.
Deep dive, for sure. But now, AI can handle more and more of the actual coding. We have to figure out what makes us unique. What's our real expertise here?
Where do we fit in?
Exactly. So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack this software engineering identity crisis, as Annie Vella calls it. We'll look at the roots of this feeling, the evidence that things are really shifting.
Love that term, identity crisis, by the way.
Right. And then we'll explore the paths forward, specifically in this age of crazy powerful AI. We'll make sure you leave with the key insights without feeling overwhelmed.
I like that.
Sound good?
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. Annie Vella lays out some pretty compelling data, and the numbers are pretty eye-opening. Google says that over 25% of their new code is now AI-generated.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's huge. And then you have reports from some Y Combinator startups claiming that AI is writing like 95% of their code.
95%? That's almost the entire thing.
I know, right? It's mind-blowing. And these aren't just isolated cases. This is a clear trend, a massive shift happening right now.
And Annie Vella did her own research, talking to software engineers directly. And her findings back this up. A big chunk of them say they're spending less time actually writing code.
Right. And get this, almost half of them believe that prompt engineering could become their main skill.
So instead of speaking the computer's language through code, we'll be speaking to the AI in plain English, telling it what to do.
Exactly. And that's a fundamental change, right?
Huge change. Makes you wonder if the challenge will be the same. Like, is crafting a prompt as intellectually stimulating as crafting a complex algorithm?
I don't know. And then you have Andrej Karpathy talking about vibe coding.
Vibe coding, I've heard that thrown around.
Right. So the idea is that instead of painstakingly writing every single line of code, we basically set a general direction, a vibe, and let the AI fill in the blanks.
Interesting. So instead of being a sculptor meticulously shaping every detail, we become more like a curator, choosing pieces that someone else or something else created and arranging them.
That's a perfect analogy. There's skill in that, but it's definitely different from direct hands-on creation.
And that's the thing that's tough to wrap your head around, right? If we're just setting the vibe and the AI is doing the heavy lifting, are we still really connected to the code?
Karpathy really hits the nail on the head with this question. Are we still engineers if we forget that the code even exists?
Whoa. Deep stuff.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it?
Totally.
And Annie Vella brings up this story about Gene Kim and Steve Yeg. They use AI to port this huge Ruby script, 3,500 lines of code, to Kotlin, and they did it in an hour.
An hour.
I know, right?
Right.
And here's the kicker. The AI not only translated the code, it actually improved it. It added modular architecture and unit tests, stuff they didn't have time for in the original version.
So it's not just faster. The AI is potentially making our code better.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. And this highlights the potential of AI to boost our efficiency, but also the shift in our role. Their main skill in that scenario wasn't writing thousands of lines of Kotlin. It was understanding the Ruby script, telling the AI what to do, and then critically evaluating the AI's work.
So their deep engineering knowledge was still crucial, but they weren't the ones actually writing the bulk of the code.
Precisely.
Hmm?
And then Annie Vella talks about Patrick Dubois' 4 patterns of AI native development.
Okay, tell me more about these patterns.
So Dubois lays it out like this. We're moving from being producers of code to managers of AI, from focusing on implementation to defining the intent, from delivering a finished product to a more continuous discovery, and from creating content to curating knowledge.
Okay, I'm starting to see the picture here.
Yeah, and Vella emphasizes that it's all about this blend of creation and orchestration.
Makes sense. It's not that our old engineering skills become useless, they just take on a different form.
Exactly. We need to be really clear about what we want to achieve and then use AI strategically to get there.
I like that.
So we see this big shift happening, right?
Take time.
But let's take a step back. Why has coding been so central to our identity as software engineers? Like, what makes the craft itself so special to us?
Well, Vella points out this feeling of mastery and control, You spend years learning how to build stuff with code, and you feel this sense of ownership over the systems you create. Even with all the high-level languages and frameworks we have today, there's often this underlying understanding of how things work at a deeper level.
Yeah, that's something I'm really proud of personally.
Me too.
Even if we're not messing with memory management every day, there's this satisfaction in knowing the fundamental principles, right? And even just putting together different APIs and libraries, it's like a creative puzzle.
It's like being a composer, taking different instruments, different sounds, and crafting them into something beautiful.
Love that. And Annie Vella highlights this Google research that says creativity in software engineering now is often about cleverly reusing existing components, more than coming up with something totally new.
Yeah, we become these integration engineers, as they put it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's still creatives, but the creativity lies in how we bring these different pieces together.
And let's not forget the whole secret language aspect, as Annie Vella calls it. The syntax, the quirks of a specific programming language. When you master that, it's like unlocking a secret code.
Totally. And then there's that deep pride in writing clean, elegant code. Remember all those debates about coding styles?
Oh, yeah. I've been in some heated discussions about tabs versus spaces.
Who hasn't? But it shows how much we care about the craft, right? It's like a form of craftsmanship.
For sure.
And Annie Vella brings in this awesome quote from Frederick Brooks's book, The Mythical Man Month. He talks about the precision required in coding, comparing it to magic. Like one wrong character can break everything.
Oof, I know that feeling.
So true. But when it all works, when the code just flows, that's magical. Okay, so we've talked about why coding has been so crucial to how we see ourselves. Now let's look at some parallels from the past, because maybe they can shed some light on where we are now with AI.
Sounds good.
Annie Vella shares her own experience of becoming a manager, and that really resonated with me.
Yeah, I read that part. It was interesting.
She talks about how she kind of felt pushed into management because at that time, the technical track didn't really go as high.
You hit a ceiling.
And she loved the hands-on work, so it was a tough choice.
Sounds familiar. Right.
And she talks about this feeling of loss, like she wasn't building things anymore, and that her deep technical skills weren't as directly relevant in a purely managerial role.
And that experience, even though it's from a while back, it kind of mirrors what we might be facing now with AI, moving from creating to managing, directing.
It does, doesn't it? And the key question she asks, can orchestrating AI give us that same feeling of satisfaction, that same sense of identity as actually creating something ourselves? That's the core of it, right?
Huge question.
Yeah. Because if what really drives us is that act of creation, then maybe just telling a tool to create won't be enough.
That's where the identity crisis comes in, right? If we tie our professional worth to hands-on building, then just managing AI might leave a void. Even if it's intellectually challenging, it might not be as fulfilling.
Exactly.
Okay, so what challenges and concerns are popping up now that AI is playing a bigger role?
Annie Vella talks about this argument that the push for broader skills, like communication and systems thinking, some people see it as management repackaged for individual contributors.
It does feel like that sometimes.
And it makes you wonder, is it really about developing broader skills? Or is it about shifting us away from coding because that's what AI is doing?
Makes you think.
Yeah, the CIO article she mentions about restructuring teams towards more of an oversight role. It just adds to this anxiety.
What was in that article?
Well, they paint this picture of future dev teams with product managers, UX designers, and then a software architect who mainly uses AI to create prototypes.
That architect sounds a lot like a manager, doesn't it?
Totally. They're focused on the big picture, guiding the AI, not diving into the code.
And that brings up another worry. If AI is doing so much of the coding, how will the next generation of engineers learn the fundamentals, like algorithms, data structures, how to debug really complex stuff? We learn by struggling with code.
So true. If we take that away, do we lose that deep understanding that makes an experienced engineer an expert?
It's a bit scary, to be honest.
It is. Annie Vella compares it to the Industrial Revolution, when machines replaced skilled craftspeople.
Wow. Yeah, that's a powerful analogy.
It makes you wonder, is our craft heading in the same direction? Will software engineers become obsolete like those craftspeople?
It's a sobering thought. Makes you realize how much technology can change the nature of work. We might need to adapt our skills and how we see our value in this new AI world.
Okay, so what can we do about it? Where do we go from here? Annie Vella outlines 3 paths forward.
3 paths.
Yeah, resisting, adapting, and balancing.
Okay, break those down for me.
Resisting means focusing on areas where human creativity and deep technical skills are still essential, where AI can't really replace us. Adapting is about fully embracing AI, becoming experts at guiding and managing it. And balancing is this middle ground where we use AI for routine tasks, but still do some hands-on coding and problem solving in other areas.
So choosing your own adventure, basically.
Yeah. And she uses this metaphor of the engineer-manager pendulum.
I like that.
The idea is that becoming a manager didn't erase your engineering identity, it broadened it. And then many engineers actually found it refreshing to go back to hands-on technical work after a while.
Yeah, like you gain a new perspective, right?
Exactly. And that leads to this concept of an AI age pendulum. Maybe we'll swing between deep technical work, strategic AI orchestration, and problem solving that combines both.
Okay, I can see that. It's more dynamic, more flexible than being forced into a single role.
Right. And what's cool is that Annie Vella's research shows that the biggest concerns engineers have about AI assistants are code quality and security.
That makes sense.
So at the end of the day, we still see ourselves as the guardians of good engineering. We want to make sure that the software we build, even if AI helped, is solid and secure.
We're still responsible for the outcome.
Exactly. Now, Annie Vella doesn't just focus on the doom and gloom. She also highlights the awesome stuff about AI tools.
There's got to be an upside.
Oh, yeah, for sure. AI can be like this amazing pair programming partner. It can boost the confidence of junior developers, save time for senior engineers on boring tasks, and help us prototype new ideas super fast.
It's like having this incredibly powerful tool at our disposal.
But then there's the reality check, right? This Get Clear study that Annie Vella cites shows an increase in copy-pasted code, duplicated code blocks, and just messy code in general.
So we trade speed for quality.
It's a trade-off for sure. And it raises questions about whether AI-generated code, even if it works, will be maintainable in the long run.
Makes you think, yeah.
And then there's this whole issue of trust. When we talk about human-AI teaming, we tend to trust AI a lot at first, but that trust can disappear really quickly if the AI makes mistakes. And that's different from how trust builds between people.
Yeah, with people, it's more gradual.
And AI is often a black box. We don't always understand why it makes the choices it makes. So if it messes up, it's harder to regain that trust.
It's like when a new manager is trying to figure out how to trust their team without micromanaging.
Perfect analogy. And the research shows that teams can actually do worse with AI if the collaboration isn't smooth. So we got to figure out how to work effectively with these tools, or they might end up holding us back.
It's not a magic bullet.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
So taking a step back, I think what Annie Vella is getting at with this software engineering identity crisis is that it's not just about AI taking our jobs.
It's bigger than that.
Yeah, it's about what it means to be a creator in this field.
Our identity is changing.
But she also says that AI gives us a chance to broaden our role, to be more than just coders. We can focus on understanding users, on business impact, on higher level design.
It's an opportunity to reclaim those parts of our role.
And ultimately, as Annie Vella reminds us, the core of software engineering remains the same.
Solving problems, building things that matter.
Right. And these durable engineering skills will always be essential no matter what the technology looks like.
So what's the takeaway message here?
I think the question isn't whether AI will change the software industry. because it's already happening.
It's happening right now, yeah.
The real question is, how will you, as a software engineer, adapt and evolve? Will you hold on to the old ways, or will you embrace the role of this master builder of AI-augmented systems?
Deep stuff.
Right. Think about where you see yourself in this new world, because the future of software engineering is being shaped right now, and you're a part of it.
I like that.
Thanks for joining us today. This was a great deep dive.
I enjoyed it.
See you next time.
Sounds good.